As always, the links to the original stories will be down in the description. All credit goes to the original posters, the wonderful writers of these stories. So, before you fall asleep, or if you can remember to come back after, make sure to go and show them some love and support. Okay. The first story is by Unalloyed Saint Trina. Unalloyed Saint Trina, and it's titled "My Fiancé Went Missing 6 months ago, and everyone's convinced I killed her. Last night, my doorbell camera caught us standing across the street, staring at our house from the edge of the cornfield. When Rose vanished, Detective Hughes seemed damn certain he'd discover where I buried her body. I told him I had nothing to do with it. Over and over, I explained that he was squandering precious time. I begged him to consider other possibilities, pleaded for him to expand the search. You know what I got in response? A shit-eating grin and some old-timey, "You're going away for a long time, pal," cop speak. The smugness of it all made me want to bash my head against the cell wall until my skull collapsed. Can't say I was surprised, though. Some small part of myself knew I was fucked from the jump. Rose had no enemies. I had no alibi. Of course he thought I killed her. What other explanation could there be? We were home that day, just the two of us. Rose went outside to stick a "for sale" sign on the roadside, even though I told her it was a waste of energy. I'd lived in that house my entire life, inherited from my parents when they passed. Labeling it as secluded was a generous understatement. If someone ever drove by, it was because they were very, very lost, and probably not in the market for a beat-up farmhouse. Still, she was insistent. A sale would have financed the wedding Rose always envisioned for us. So goddammit, she was going to figure out a way to sell it, and that meant trying everything, including the sign. Rose was stubborn like that, fiercely, unapologetically bull-headed. Always had been. During the winter of '96, her family's golden retriever ran out onto a frozen lake and fell through the ice. Her mom screamed for her to stay put, but the command didn't even slow her down. She dove headfirst into the water. Rose couldn't save the drowning dog, of course. I mean, what are the odds an 8-year-old could have? That wasn't the point, though. If she wanted something, she'd do everything in her power to make it manifest, no matter what anyone said, no matter the cost. In that case, the cost was pretty steep. 8 days in the hospital, $30,000 in medical expenses, and a trio of amputated toes. Frostbite had devoured the smallest 3 on her right foot, left each of them dusk-colored and brittle like an eggshell. You'd think losing some digits would have dented her natural resolve, but not Rose. Her ability to walk was never the same, but but she wobbled with her chest puffed out, emerald eyes gleaming with this inextinguishable fire, her expression steadfast and sure, even when the kids at school mocked her, nicknaming her Two-Toed Rose. Naturally, I didn't bother to fight her on the for sale sign. Instead, I grabbed a beer from the fridge, slumped under the couch, and tried to unwind. "Be right back," she called out. 15 minutes later, my stomach was warm with lager, but she hadn't come back in. I wasn't worried. What was there to be worried about? I would have heard if there was trouble. The only ambient noise this deep into the heartland was the wind whistling softly between the corn stalks. My head began to feel pleasantly heavy. I let my eyelids flutter and fall, woke up with a start, lurching upright, caked in a cold sweat and gasping for air. Hours had passed. The night-swept house curled around me, grimly silent. I called out to her, but to no avail. Rose wasn't inside. My truck was still in the driveway. I ended up skipping the worried phase and proceeding straight to borderline hysterical. I bolted up and down the road, screaming her name. Then I called Dan. To my profound relief, he answered the cell on the first ring. Lord only knows how someone born in our sad excuse for a shed ended up becoming the assistant to Minnesota's district attorney. But in that moment, I was grateful. My older brother pulled some strings, and within hours, droves of policemen were buzzing around the farmhouse. I sat on the porch and let them work, head in my hands, out of my mind with anxiety. Sniffer dogs had no difficulty picking up her scent, but as soon as they entered the cornfield across the street, the pack of shepherds turned rabid, barking, whining, spinning in manic circles, biting wildly at each other. Detective Hughes told me that their abrupt frenzy indicated that the scent trail had gone cold, and that it was a normal, expected reaction. The confusion painted across their handler's face seemed to suggest otherwise. A day later, I was arrested and charged with Rose's murder. The police raised that cornfield, unearthing every speck of dirt in a half-mile radius, searching for Rose's corpse, but found fuck all. No blood, no body, no for sale sign, nothing, other than the testimony of a few malfunctioning sniffer dogs. There was no objective evidence that I had killed her, so the case never went anywhere, and they eventually had to let me go. In the trial of public opinion, however, I was guilty by default. When someone's wife disappears, it's always the husband's doing. Isn't that right, Frank? Is what Rose's father screamed at me when I dared to show my face at the local grocery store. In the wake of her disappearance, everyone seemed to gloss over the fact that Rose and I never had the wedding. An honorary promotion to husband and wife, excruciating and ironic in equal measure. The man chased me all the way to my truck, angry tears spilling down his unshaven cheeks, white-knuckled fists hammering the driver's side window, splintering the glass while my trembling hand fumbled to shove the key in the ignition. "Where the hell is my daughter, you sick son of a bitch?" else. But I had no community to fall back on. The only person who stood by me was Dan, though I could never tell if that was because he actually believed I was innocent, or if he was trying to save face, maintaining appearances to sidestep the bad PR of being related to a killer. I trained myself not to think about it. After the incident with Rose's father, Dan offered to deliver food and booze to the farmhouse every Saturday, on the condition that I kept a low profile. That was fine by me. As long as the rations kept coming, Dan could believe whatever he wanted. The days were long and miserable, but the nights were worse. I couldn't sleep. My mind was foggy in the daylight, but as soon as the sun set, it would go into overdrive. I found myself haunted by the same 3 impossible questions, night after night after night. Where was Rose? Who took her? Were they outside right now, lurking in the cornfield, preparing to take me too? If I was ever going to sleep again, I needed some sort of protection, but Dan refused to bankroll a security system for the house. I'm already splitting the cost for these deliveries. Sure as shit, not going to fork over another grand for cameras on that godforsaken house. His reluctant counteroffer was for me to move in with him and his family. I told him that wasn't going to happen. I can't just leave. If Rose ever comes home, I need to be there, I claimed. Though if I'm being honest, I held no hope of her returning home. But still, I wouldn't leave. Leaving that house felt akin to a confession. I refused to give anyone the satisfaction. In the end, the doorbell camera was all compromised. I could afford a cheap one with basic motion detection capabilities. I had it mailed to Dan's house and he brought it with the next delivery. 6 months passed. I never got a single notification. Not until this morning. I woke up around noon, more hungover than usual. I rolled off the couch, gripping my head, acid slithering up the back of my throat. The air in the dimly lit foyer was hot and putrid. I gagged, stumbling around, ankles knocking into empty bottles, causing them to roll. The clinking of glass colliding with glass aggravated my already pounding headache. I wobbled down the front hallway. Sunlight would be torture, but I was willing to endure it for fresh air. I slammed my eyes shut, twisted the knob and staggered onto the porch, breathing deep. Then there was an unexpected crunch beneath my bare foot, followed by a visceral squish. I lifted my foot and forced myself to look, grimacing as the daylight needled my throbbing eyes. The remains of a large brown moth lay smeared across the hardwood. Although I had crushed it, I was fairly sure I hadn't killed it. A handful of identical moths were scattered across my porch, and all of them looked to be dead. I surveyed the yard. There weren't any other dead moths lying in the grass or baking on the asphalt. I shrugged, planting myself on a nearby chair so I could pluck the sticky debris out of my skin. That's when I noticed something bizarre. I counted at least 20 tiny legs splattered across my heel. Moths don't have that many legs, do they? first time since Rose vanished, my mind felt clear. I knew what to do next. Dan, this is the last favor, I promise. Static hissed over the spotty connection. I sat on the porch, monitoring the cornfield, scrutinizing each individual stalk with a feverish intensity. You need to get Detective Hughes over to the farmhouse ASAP. She's still here. I saw her. Black clouds congregated on the horizon, portending a deluge. Motion alerts, 25th of the 3rd, early morning, Kittison County, Minnesota. 3:28 a.m. A silhouette pops into view on the other side of the pothole-ridden street. There's no footage of them walking into frame, no video evidence of them emerging from the vast cornfield on the opposite side of the street. They just appear. Their stance is stilted and awkward, head forward, legs apart, stretched arms held down at an angle, palms facing the camera. They remain motionless for 16 minutes. Their stillness is so perfect that the recording appears frozen. Details about the silhouette, what they're wearing, their facial features, the presence of any injuries, are hard to discern because of their distance from the camera. 3:44 a.m. A moth lands on the lens, obscuring the cornfield and the silhouette with its wings. After a few seconds, the moth listlessly falls from the lens, and the cornfield returns to view. The silhouette is gone. Not only that, but the location where it had been standing is different. Some of the nearby stalks have vanished, others are missing only pieces, severed cleanly from the stalks at bizarre angles. There, she's right there. I bent over the detective's shoulder and jabbed the top left corner of my laptop, pixels distorting as my fingernail dug into the screen. Detective Hughes leaned over the kitchen table, squinting, cocking his head, studying her. Outside, rain belted the gutters. My anxious heartbeat sort of mimicked the downpour. Quick, rhythmic bursts of sound and motion. Why was he being so quiet? I know the feed is hazy. I paused, unsure of what I was going to say next. But that's definitely Rose. I don't know why she's standing like that. I don't know why she never came inside last night. But Jesus Christ, she's alive. Rose is alive. The thud of my laptop slamming shut severed my stream of consciousness. Detective Hughes stood, pulled his raincoat from the rim of the chair and began sliding it on. So did you email it to yourself, or... He paced out of the kitchen, stepping over empty beer bottles and plates of rotting food, navigating the minefield of detritus that acted as a physical testament to Rose's prolonged absence. Wait, you are reopening a case, right? I called after him. I followed him into the foyer. The man was practically sprinting out of my house. As his hand gripped the front doorknob, he spat a few harsh syllables under his breath. I felt heat gnawing at my ribs. What the hell did you just say? I shouted. Hughes tensed his shoulders. He released the knob and slowly turned to face me. His bloodshot eyes were bulging. A bright blue vein pulsed beneath the skin of his temple. I said, this is the last fucking time I ever do your brother a favor. His hands flew into the air, gesticulating wildly. For fuck's sake, Frank. I know you're desperate for the world to believe you didn't kill her, but that had to be the laziest, most pathetic boxes beneath his boot, squaring up to me, nose to nose, lips contorted into a snarl. I shut my mouth and sheepishly tilted my head to the floor. Distant lightning fractured the sky, bathing the room in a pearly flash. Hughes lowered his voice to a sharp whisper. "How dumb do you think I am, bud? You really expected me to believe you got a motion detector notification for something that far away from the camera? You get a notification every time a sparrow flies over the cornfield too." My heart sank. I hadn't considered that. And by the way, those corn stalks are at least 7 feet tall, so next time you try to pull a stunt like this, it might be a good idea to make it shorter than the stalks, not half a head taller. I hadn't considered that either. Turns out the pure relief of seeing Rose again had blinded me, and when that blindness lifted, some unnerving irregularities began setting in my blood like drying cement. My entire body felt numb and heavy. I stared at the floor. What the hell was on that video? You slapped a hand onto my shoulder. My eyes snapped back to him. Rows of cigarette-stained teeth shone through a hollow grin. "Great dog," he mumbled, releasing his palm. He trudged across the foyer and swung the front door open. The thumping clamor of a rainstorm erupted into my home. "One last thing," he shouted from the doorway. "Let's pretend you weren't god-awful at video tampering, and I believed what you said was on that recording. Isn't it kind of suspicious that the first thing you did was devise a way to get me over here, rather than look for Rose yourself?" Hughes flipped his head up and stepped into the downpour, leaning out of the frame while holding the door open, gesturing to the cornfield. "She's right there, Frank. A little rain really gonna stop you from finding your beloved." I stared at the man, searching for something to say. He sighed. "Listen, judging by the rust, I'd bet good money your truck is just an expensive metal sofa at this point. So, want to lift into town? I don't know whether or not you killed Rose, but I know that Dan cares about you, and I know this hellhole is poisoning your mind." A dormant rage reignited in my gut. I did not kill her, you vapid, miserable fuck. Each syllable fired from my diaphragm like a pistol shot. My rage echoed through the empty corridors, blanketing the ruins of my life in a layer of harsh, blood-red nights. The echo slowly faded. I steadied my labored breathing. "Now, get the hell out of my house." He chuckled, turned and plodded into the storm. Frozen in the center of my musty, poorly lit, trash-laden foyer, I watched the door gradually sputter closed, jerking on its hinges, and for a second, my eyes latched onto something. A long-legged silhouette looming atop the weathered, yellow road markings, a featureless outline glistening in the relentless downpour. Then the door clicked shut. I bolted to the room's front-facing bay windows and pressed my face into the murky glass, stomach twisting, lungs on fire. "What the fuck? What the fuck? What the fuck?" I whispered, eyes darting across the road. I scanned every inch of it, once, twice, 3 times, and all I saw was the headlights from the detective's sedan growing dimmer and dimmer on the horizon. It took about an hour to settle my nerves. I darted from window to window, peering out into the storm, frantically surveying the perimeter for whatever I thought I saw, hoping that would calm me down. The patrol backfired. My imagination projected the long-legged silhouette every dark corner of the overwhelming gloom, elevating my panic to new heights. Autopilot took over. I paced into the foyer, brandished a half-filled bottle of scotch that was resting on the coffee table, and began chugging. My nervous system cooled. The panic faded. I finished the last sip with a wheezing cough. I tossed the bottle into the already cluttered fireplace and stumbled into the kitchen, collapsing into the chair Hughes had been sitting. "Arsehole," I muttered, staring at the closed laptop. Gusts of wind battered the house, whipping the rafters, causing the walls to creak and moan. Loose gutters crashed against the side of the roof. I wedged my fingertips under the display and slowly pulled it up. The screen flashed to life and the footage resumed. I studied the motionless silhouette. The more I examined it, the less it looked like Rose. The arms were too skinny, the head was too long. The body appeared flat, paper thin, almost two-dimensional. But the face was right. The button nose, the rounded chin, the fire glinting behind her eyes. My phone chattered against the table. I gasped, clutching my chest, heartbeat striking my palm. Jesus. I picked it up and answered without checking the caller ID. Dan's gravelly voice buzzed through the receiver. "I just got off the line with Hughes. What the fuck happened, man?" I clicked the spacebar. The timestamp at the top of the recording stopped ticking. Same old shit that always happens. He didn't believe me. I swear I could point out the flaming orb in the sky, call it the sun, and these people would still label me a liar. The room began to spin. I closed my eyes and rested my forehead on the keypad. "God, Frank, every day you sound a little more like Dad." What's that supposed to mean? A hint of regret crept into Dan's voice. "You know, just nothing was ever his fault. Not the divorce, the drinking, none of it. Hell, even some issues back when we actually owned the house and the farmland." I felt myself drifting from the conversation. The hypnotic thumping of rain was significantly more palatable than another one of my brother's sermons. The phone vibrated against my ear. I shot upright and peered at the screen. My guts twisted into violent knots. Motion alert, 10:32 p.m. I scrambled to switch to the live feed. Dan crowed on in the background. I remember how Dad would always lose things, but he'd never own up to it. It was pathetic. The man would blame the cornfield before he blamed himself. Said the land was slippery and cracked at the seams. I furiously examined the black and white image. Stalks wavered in the bellowing wind. Lightning flickered in the background. No silhouette, no moths, no motion. There was this one time back when you were still a baby. It was the middle of the night. I woke up because Dad was yelling, probably drunk. But he wasn't arguing with Mum. He was on the porch, screaming into the dark, howling the phrase, "Give it back," over and over and over again. I rewinded the feed to exactly 10:32. Still, the cornfield was vacant. Something had set the detector off. What the fuck was it? Then I saw it. Not in the cornfield. Much closer to the camera, hanging over the porch awning. A bulbous, rolling pin-shaped knob with two thin, crooked, wriggling protrusions curling over at the end like cricket antennae. Those protrusions hooked onto the awning's edge and pushed up, quickly disappearing from the feed. Recognition came in small, venomous strips. An old nickname fast as my drunken limbs could muster, careful not to squeak the chair legs against the tile. Bouts of wind howled within the next room. I took slow, silent steps, bringing the fire into view. Silver moonlight bathed the waterlogged couch in an eerie glow. I didn't understand, but I couldn't see the roof. I leaned forward. There was a hole, a narrow hole with smooth, rounded edges. Maybe slit is a more appropriate word. It was long. From my vantage, I couldn't see how long. I leaned a little more, but stopped before I saw the end. I squinted. Motes of dust danced in the moonlight, swelling, ballooning towards me. Motes of dust danced in the moonlight, swelling, ballooning towards me, forming shapes that caused waves of primal distress to explode across my skin. But I couldn't run, not yet, not until two ghastly emeralds gradually shimmered into existence, getting closer and closer, and then a rounded chin and a button nose. She was right in front of me. I could only see her semi-translucent face, superimposed over the foyer. It crinkled the atmosphere as she pushed closer, like forcing a mask through a layer of saran wrap. Her expression was one of contentment, cheeks raised with a wide, toothless smile, but it was still wooden, nearly lifeless. A wispy sensation tingled across my right palm. I think she was trying to hold my hand. I almost smiled. Rose had found a way back to me. Scorching pain engulfed my entire hand. A feeling like hundreds and hundreds of insect legs burrowing into my flesh. I leapt back, wailing in agony, terror squeezing my heart, but it was too late. I threw myself around and sprinted towards the back door. I stretched my hand out to grasp the knob, but something went wrong. I could feel my palm and my fingers, but they hadn't moved to the door with me. Somehow they remained in the center of the kitchen. I looked down. My hand was just gone. Just gone. Silently stolen, severed cleanly at the wrist. A jagged layer of blackened flesh covered the wound, as if I'd pushed the stump against steaming metal until it sizzled. I felt her approaching, slinking closer with every passing second, but I couldn't stop gawking at the empty air where my hand should have been. I couldn't move. I couldn't leave. I was going to die in that miserable, godforsaken house, just like Dad did. A spark caught fire behind my eyes. I twisted the knob with my other hand, rammed my shoulder into the door, and descended into the inky darkness. Heavy rain peppered my eyes, blurring my vision. Mud swallowed my bare heels with every step. I didn't look back. I just kept sprinting towards the truck. I felt her. She wasn't far behind. I swung the door open and launched myself into the driver's seat. My stump collided with the gear lever. Unbearable pain radiated up my arm. The syrupy warmth of leaking blood trickled across my wrist. I screamed through a dense jaw, chipping teeth. I sucked down the chalky fragments and reached under the seat, grasping for the spare key. I couldn't see her, but I knew she was only a few feet away. My fingertips finally grazed metal. I heaved the key into the ignition. The engine shuddered, then roared to life. I threw the truck into drive and slammed on the accelerator without even gripping the wheel, screeching under the rocky asphalt, skidding in and out of potholes. After a few seconds, the car stabilized. Cornstalks passed by at 40 miles an hour. My ragged breaths began to slow. Gradually the rain stopped. I felt Rose becoming more and more distant. For a split second, I couldn't feel her at all. There was a brief, beautiful silence. Then, like the crack of lightning, I felt her again. Not behind me, not at the farmhouse. She was approaching from in front of me. Before I could react, a paralyzed smile appeared in the headlights. She was standing on the roadside, leaning forward, her head poised to hit the front windshield. Instinctively, I ducked. Her face struck the windshield. The collision itself was noiseless, no crunching of metal, no shattering of glass. The only new sound was just the whoosh of cold air blistering through the truck. Rose quickly disappeared in the rearview mirror, unmoored, seemingly no worse for wear. I creaked upright, inspecting the damage. A perfect, face-shaped hole ran the length of the truck, exactly where my head had been before I ducked. Steam drifted from the metal edges. Once again my connection to Rose dimmed, but it didn't leave me completely. It only truly disappears when she slips through the seams. Currently, I'm holed up in a cheap motel, about 10 miles from the farmhouse. Dan keeps calling. Once I'm a little further away, I'll pick up. I don't want to risk him being caught in the crossfire. Rose is coming for me. Seems that some of a part of her still wants me. A residual urge that refuses to fade despite her grievous mutations. I'm gonna do whatever I can to evade her. For better or worse, I'm connected to her now. She has my right hand. If I focus, I can almost feel like I can wiggle my fingers. I don't know what exactly happened to her. Maybe my dad was right. Maybe the land is cracked at the seams. Maybe things slip through and end up somewhere else. A different, parallel place, loosely tethered to our piece of reality. Wherever she disappeared to, it makes sense that Rose, of all people, would find a way to come back. When Rose wants something, she'll do anything in her power to make it manifest. We never had our wedding, but I think Rose and I are destined for a much deeper connection. Very, very soon. That one was really good. I like the one. The writing was really good. Like, you can, like, some of these stories are, like, don't get me wrong, good, but, like, have a few mistakes here and there, like, that can kind of take you out of it, but this one was written so well that it was almost like watching a movie or a short film while reading it, if that makes sense. Like, sometimes you just really get pulled into what you're reading and you kind of see it. That's how it was for me reading this one. Really, really good. Really creepy. I always find anything farm related super creepy, especially like big cornfields. Because, like, I don't know, just like, I think it stems from Jeepers Creepers back when I was a kid. But, like, big, empty cornfield, dark, like, you can't see over it, just listening for something to move. It's so creepy to me. So creepy. Like, being isolated away with no one to, like, help. It's really creepy. It reminds me a bit of, I can't remember. Oh, I do. In the Tall Grass, the Stephen King one, a little bit. In the sense that, like, within the cornfield, things don't seem to be normal, you know? But yeah, that one's really good. The author for this one, seems to be coming out with a book. So if you're interested in that, follow the link that I'll post down below. Show some love on the story, of course. But yeah, there's also a link website, or like you don't really know who they are. Does that make sense? Like, but with the no sleep, because most of it is fiction, non-fiction, sorry. Wait, yeah, because most of it is fiction. Like stories that they've created. A lot of these people aren't like talking about their own experiences, so it's not anonymous. Like, they have their own profile, their own portfolio, their own, like, you know, websites, stuff like that, where they're, you know, they're posting their own works, their own stories. And so if you do enjoy these stories, I think it is a good idea to follow them on Reddit, because a lot of these authors have a lot of stories, which, you know, of course I haven't narrated all of them. So if like you really like a story, or let's say the writing style of a certain one, definitely check the link below, because they may have more stories that you would love that I'm not gonna narrate, just because there's so much out there, you know, like I can't narrate everything. So I do think it's a good idea to check them out if you weren't already doing that. But yeah, the next one. Let me get it up. Okay, the next one is by Lullaby Archive. And like I was just saying, a lot of these authors have their own like subreddits, their own websites, whatever, where you can buy like a collection of their works. Like there's a few names that you guys will recognize. Like Saturday is one that we read a lot from. He has like his own Reddit page, and he's just made his own subreddit, I'm pretty sure, where like you can find a big like link list of all his different works, and like subcategories of like different ones and stuff. So a lot of these authors have something similar. Lullaby Archive, who we are reading now, is, I'm pretty sure the account is new. So they're like new. I don't know whether they're new to Reddit in general, or if just this is a new account to, you know, post their stories, their works. But regardless, this account is new. I think they've got 2 stories up at the minute, I think. And yeah, so they're gonna be posting more. So make sure you go down below, and show some love on this post, because I think this is, correct me if I'm wrong, I might be wrong, but I think this might be the first one they posted. So yeah, show some love. Their like account, their Reddit account is new, so let's try and, you know, give a positive start, you know, show some support, because they are a great writer, and I, for one, I'm really looking forward to more works by them. So again, if you do like these stories, please follow the authors if you use Reddit, because like I said, I'm not gonna be able to narrate everything. There's so much out there, and I can guarantee you're gonna miss some really good stuff if you just listen through me instead of reading as well. Anyway, this one is titled, please ignore my dog, she's sleeping. This one is titled, I've been a subway security for 23 years. Stop ignoring the smell. If you're reading this while sitting on a train, do me a favor, put your phone down for a second and tell me what it smells like around you. If it smells like an old rotten rag from some damp basement, read this. My co-workers, my friends, even my own kids, nobody's listening, especially my youngest daughter. I'm just a cranky old geezer with a case of job brain. Jokes that I've got early onset senility tells me it's time to see a shrink or just pack it in and head to the nursing home. Look, I'm barely in my 50s and I'm damn sure not ready for the rocking chair yet. Well, my gut has never steered me wrong, and right now my gut is screaming. That's why I'm writing this before I leave. My job is to warn you. After that, do what you want. You've seen this new subculture, or whatever the hell they're calling it lately, right? The one spreading through the city like a rash. Look at them. I mean, really look at these kids. Let me explain. See, I work security for the subway, standing by the turnstiles, watching the scanners park, and seeing the same tired faces. My job is to keep an eye on the gates. Making sure nobody hopped the turnstiles or brought anything through that didn't belong. It was only supposed to be a temporary gig, something to ride out the crisis, but I just stayed. The time at the gate is only one part of my routine. We rotate. 1 hour you're on the frisk, then you head back to the room to go blind staring at a grid of 30 cameras. Then you're out on patrol, back and forth, pounding the pavement. All day on your feet. By the time I get home, my soles are throbbing like a train ran over them. I've even got a ritual. Get home. First thing I do is shove my feet into a bucket of ice water. Without that, you ain't standing up the next morning. I buy expensive boots. I shove orthotic insoles in there. Never cheap out on that. But don't mind my whining. The pay is decent enough. I'm not gonna buy a gold toilet or something, but it covers life in this meat grinder. I even took my wife on a real vacation every year. She would have believed me. Or at least she'd have listened. She always listened. I still carry her old Polaroid around. She's always with me, even though she's been gone for many years. Nancy is watching over me from above, keeping me safe. Anyways, I'm rambling again. Point is, there are perks to being stuck underground. You find them after a while, like the sounds and the smells that used to drive me nuts. I grew to love them. That cocktail of creosote and ozone, hot metal and the human soup, cigarettes, sweat, perfume, cheap food, and all the rest. I learned to love the stink, even if I don't notice it much anymore. And I like people watching when I'm in the mood. Keeps me from dying of boredom. And hey, it's part of the job, noticing the little things. Like predators, I can spot them from a mile away. They try to blend in, acting casual, but I can see what they're up to. I see the way they eye someone's bag, their pockets, or how tight a person is clutching their phone. They're looking for the soft spots. The office drones too. They're exhausted, shoulders slumped, all wearing the same drab rags, always in a rush. Their bosses though, they've always got better shoes, and there's calm air about them. They look at me like I'm a piece of furniture, if they look at all. Tourists and locals, I snap them like twigs. Especially I like watching the kids, even if I don't get them half the time. The fashion is weird, sure. I've watched the clothes and the hair change for years, but some things stay the same. They want to rebel, to show they're different. They think they won't be standing here 20 years from now with their bad back and short legs. God willing, kid. God willing. The most consistent thing is seeing the little groups. You see a pair, and you know, yep, those two are in love. You can tell instantly. It's like the crowd and the stinking subway just vanish for them. Anyway, Anyway, enough of the sappy stuff. I just wanted you to understand that I've been looking at crowds for 23 years, every damn day. I know how to spot the details, even the tiny ones. Usually it's all quiet. Most people are just buried in their phones, business as usual. But about 3 weeks ago, this kid caught my eye. Walked alone. I clocked him immediately, mostly because of his threats. He was one of those old types, plenty of them around, but this kid, he looked like he'd fought a dumpster for his hoodie and lost. Filthy, covered in stains. Who knows what colour it used to be? Grey maybe, hood up, greasy matted hair sticking out, hands buried in his pockets. A junkie, I figured, dead ringer. His eyes were pitch black, full-on sclera lenses covering the whites. Face was pale as a ghost, covered in these bumpy piercings. I remember giving my youngest, Laura, hell for that kind of crap when she was little. Glad my girl grew out of that phase. Anyway, I marked the kid, but I didn't stop him. You see plenty of weirdos down here. Jump on every one of them and you're fast-tracking your own pink slip. When he hit the gate, I made my move. Just a casual stroll, like I'm doing my rounds. No bag on him, and his look wasn't the usual threats I've seen. He was calm. Too calm. Walking steady, straight. As he passed, I took a sniff. None of that typical junky chemical funk. It was more like a basement smell. Like the cellar at my cabin. Damp, mouldy, with a hint of dead rats somewhere under the floorboards. Pure rot. Garbage notes too. Spoiled food. As he passed, I took a sniff. But here's the thing. The hair on the back of my neck stood up straight when he went by. No idea why. Kid passed. I tracked him on the cams. Sat down. Rode his stop. Got off. Normal. No incidents. I probably wouldn't have given him a second thought if he was the only one. The second one, I remember her like it was this morning. Next day, early shift. She was wearing an office suit that didn't fit her rebel vibe or those black slurs at all. She walked straight, looking right ahead, didn't glance at the crowd. Just a steady, focused stare. No bag, no deep pockets. On her white blouse, there was this weird yellowish stain, like someone had puked a long time ago and tried to wipe it off. She was clutching a wilted rose with both hands. Her nails were incredibly long, probably manicured, greyish black. And that same trail followed her. I thought right then, was she and that kid hanging out in the same stinking basement? They were too similar to be a coincidence. And get this, when she was close, I started breaking down her perfume in my head. Rot, trash, dampness, and then that one note. My son has this stinking, bizarre cologne. He calls it niche. Says I wouldn't understand. He spends half a paycheck on that crap. The perfume was called something stupid like corpus fluido or whatever. You know, the stupid stuff. It smells like spit, urine, milk, and all kinds of weird animal business. And that's how she smelled. Like she climbed out of a cellar, dug through a dumpster, then doused herself in that stuff. And no, it wasn't your regular homeless combo. It was really something else. Anyway, I couldn't let her pass. "You okay, miss?" I said, stepping into her path. She stopped and looked me in the eyes. God, I felt it then. Every hair on my body stood up. Every molecule was screaming at me to run. Just run. But damn it, I've been doing this a long time. I'm the law here. It's my duty. So I kept my cool and braced myself. The girl smiled, but just with her lips. A smile like she was wearing braces or something. She didn't answer. She just stood there, staring at me Marcus was on shift with me. He's a cop, and he stepped up immediately to see why I'd stopped there. Miss, Officer Marcus, Transit Police. Oh, how happy I was when Marcus caught the vibe and moved in. My colleague here has a question. Are you alright? Do you know where you are? The girl just kept standing there, smiling. Now she was drilling her eyes into Marcus. I had a good look at it then. Filthy blonde hair. Hadn't seen a shower in a long time. That stench. She was wrapped and killed any appetite I had for lunch. And those weird bumps on her pale skin. I thought it was piercing work or something, because they were all the same size and perfectly round. Not acne, but bumps under her skin. Miss, I'm gonna need to see some ID. Marcus was already tapping something on his tablet. She pulled out a card. The plastic was chewed to hell, stained and yellow. Marcus took it with 2 fingers, looking disgusted, and started punching it into his device. She just stood there, staring at him, clutching that rose in one hand, while twirling a greasy look of hair with the other. I saw Marcus's face twitch. A shiver. Seems everything's in order, miss. Sorry for the trouble. Have a good day. She took her card back and shoved it into the pocket of her filthy, dusty, crumpled skirt. I was surprised, to say the least. She just started walking towards the escalator, a steady, confident pace. I was at one giant goosebump with no reason, but at the same time I felt sorry for her. Even though my jaw was aching the whole time she was near me, I figured she was just some kid in a bad spot who needed help. I thought that right up until she stopped before stepping onto the escalator. She looked back at me one more time before vanishing into the crowd. She gave me this wide smile. Those weren't braces, damn it. Not braces. It was several rows of sharp teeth, like a shark's, sticking out like jagged cliffs. I thought for sure I'd gone loco right then, but Marcus saw it too. He was standing there, pale as a sheet. Said that formally everything was fine. ID checked out, but he felt exactly what I felt. That overwhelming urge to drop everything and run as far as his legs would carry him. An urge to let her go. The camera showed everything was fine. She got off at her stop, rode in a back car, standing like a sardine. Nobody paid her any mind. Nobody had questions, except me and Marcus, who didn't want to talk about it after we checked the tapes. He didn't show up for work after that. Then it got worse. The next day I saw 2 more of them. Dressed differently, but all wrong. It's spring, but one of them was in a heavy winter parka. The clothes were okay, but totally out of season and old-fashioned. The second one was dressed like a food delivery courier. The only things they had in common were the black scleras, nails, the pale skin with the bumps, the smell, and no gadgets. The guy in the parka was holding a newspaper. The courier didn't have a bag. He was carrying a small metal lunchbox. We only stopped the courier because of the box, and because I insisted. Both passed the check and moved on. The duty cop didn't even care. When I asked him, "Don't you see how weird this is?" he just said something like, "It's the fashion these days. They're fine." The other guys on shift look at me like I was a moron too, whenever I try to bring up the weirdos, especially the younger ones. Chill out, man. There's freaks everywhere now. It's just a trend. Yeah, a trend. The guy with the lunchbox. There was a raw chicken leg in there, and that newspaper. It was a vintage original. From back when I was a toddler getting smacked by my mum for being picky and not eating my spinach. That's when I realized I totally lost my mind, or everyone else did. well, there were more of them every day, groups of them now. I started calling those creeps basementers because of the paleness and the stink. The basementers always walked with purpose, always carrying something weird or hiding their hands in their pockets. The men and women all had the same long nails and other stuff. And that horrible feeling that was driving me crazy. Run. Run. I took sick leave. I couldn't do it anymore. I called my kids, told them everything straight up. You know how they reacted. Said they'd drop by during the week to check on me. Told me I needed rest or to get my head examined by a professional. And I would have gone to a shrink right away, but then my co-worker, my regular relief, messaged me. We don't talk much, but he tracked down my number somehow. Turned out he saw it all too, and it was driving him insane. He said he quit because something inside him was screaming to get out of the city. He babbled about some prophetic dream, said his grandma was some kind of seer, and he's got the sight too. And his gut told him that whatever this thing is, it feeds on the big city, and it's spreading fast, faster than the old 2020 mess did. Damn its soul. I was exhausted. I decided we were both crazy, me and my buddy. Felt relieved at the same time, because I wasn't alone anymore. But in the end I went to a shrink, and on the way there, I saw maybe 20 of those basementers in the crowd. I accidentally locked eyes with one of them. Usually, they just look straight ahead if you don't touch them. They don't do anything and don't pay attention. But this one looked. I nearly missed my pants. He stopped, put a clawed finger to his lips in a shush gesture, and smiled with that jackal's mouth of his. And then I saw what he was holding. I ran. I made it to the doctor's office, and he prescribed me some sedatives. Said at least I wasn't hallucinating, because he sees them too. The weird kids with the weird fashion. Said it's nothing to worry about. Fashions change, and the city is always full of strange people. Well, at least I know there's no point in going to the cops. They'll just turn me away too. Besides, my instincts are screaming that I need to leave now. Time's running out. I don't know what's next. I've been blowing up my kids' and friends' phones. Some of them listened. Promised they'd at least head out to the country for the weekend if they can. My kids said they'd come too. We aren't that close, but they're my kids. If they don't show up, I don't even want to think about it. I'm finishing this message now. My bags are packed. I'm catching the first bus to my place in the countryside. And I suggest you do the same. Or if you still think I'm just some burnt out fart losing his grip, at least take a good look at the people around you in the crowd. Even if they look perfectly normal, make an effort. Look closer. Take a sniff. See what they've got in their hands. Like that guy in the crowd when I was on my way to a dock. In his thin palm with those long black sharp-fingered tips, he was holding an old Polaroid. The one that went missing from my uniform pocket a couple days ago. The photo was of my old lady, rest her soul, the one I took when we were at the beach. That light beige dress, she was holding a rubber ring she used to take to the beach, posing, flashing me a peace sign with 2 fingers. Fingers looking like long black claws. Well, you know how it is. On the old photo, she looked very fashionable, very trendy for today. Take care of yourselves, guys, and seriously, get out of the city this weekend. I really love that one. I really love that one. It has such a nostalgic feeling to it, because to me, or for me personally, it reminds me of a movie back when I was a kid. I think not be caught out as like not one of them because they try and like then turn you into one of them. It gives me such a similar vibe, and so that one has such a cozy, nostalgic feeling to it for me. I loved it. It also gives kind of similar vibes to something like not necessarily a zombie apocalypse, but like maybe something like Van Helsing, like this show. I haven't watched it in a bit, so I can't really remember. But like coordinated, so, like other species, like creepy species, you know. They're finally planning like their attack or like their takeover. Or the have you seen the film? I think it's called Us, and it's like these people who like live underground in some weird thing or whatever. I can't really remember, but they look identical to like everyone else above surface, and they all like do this takeover where they come above ground and like take over the lives of the normal people. Such a like cool concept. Like I would love a follow-up of that story to see like what happens, like what type of like thing are they, what do they do, they kill, do they take over, like I don't know, it's so interesting to me to think about like what are they gonna do, you know. But yeah, like I said earlier guys, go and check out these people, show them some love, show them some